All right, well, good afternoon and welcome to our MCURC Spring Insights Exchange. We know more folks will be joining in the minutes to come, but we're excited to have you all here to be reconvening virtually for this session focused on looking back, looking forward, and getting the most out of all the MCRC resources. You will also gain a sneak preview of the Menus of Change Leadership Summit. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Sophie Egan. I am co-director of the Menus of Change University Research Collaborative. And today we're going to start with some general updates about the collaborative, mostly regarding some exciting leadership updates. Then we will walk through the many resources and tools available throughout the MCRC library. Some of these maybe you've used and we'd like to hear about that. Some of them might be new to you, and really it's just a reminder of the great treasure trove of crowdsourced knowledge, knowledge-based publications, culinary inspiration tools, strategy documents, and so much more, including, of course, many research publications. Then, as I mentioned, we will actually have a preview of the Menus of Change Summit program schedule. Really exciting that the summit is returning in person for the first time in quite a while, and we're hoping that as many of you as possible will be there. So we'll talk about some opportunities for in-person networking and kind of what you can expect as an attendee. So first, a couple of leadership updates. So you may have seen, but if not, we shared in the newsletter recently that I am still co-director of the Menus of Change University Research Collaborative, but I've actually stepped over to represent the Stanford side of the CIA-Stanford partnership. And we want to give our tremendous thanks to Eric Montel, my founding co-director, who's executive director of R&DE Stanford Dining. He is now joining Shirley Everett and Greg Drescher in the leadership board. And we are really thrilled to welcome Allison Ryder as co-director from the CIA side. So she is Director of Health and Sustainability Programs for the CIA Strategic Initiatives Group. And for any of you who are familiar with that, what that means is that she's the head of Menus of Change itself. And the synergy between Menus of Change, which of course is our anchor initiative in the collaborative, the principles are our common language, our foundation. It's really wonderful to have someone who is involved in leading that initiative year round, and to have Allison join me, and she and I have worked closely together for many, many years. So it's both a personal and professional pleasure and privilege. And I want to just say that the collaborative could not be in better hands. Allison is a very, very capable leader, has worked across the industry in a variety of different leadership positions, including one of the most unique experiences being helping the CIA's former teaching kitchen collaborative. And so she understands very deeply the collaborative model and the unique opportunities that this kind of work together and really, again, kind of crowdsourcing our respective knowledge toward these shared missions and visions. So she's an incredible asset to the collaborative. I'm really thrilled to have her, and I wanted to ask everyone to join me in welcoming her and give her a few moments to just say hello.
Thank you, Sophie, and hi, everyone. Really thrilled to be joining you all today. I've been reflecting recently as we're coming up on the 10th edition of Menus of Change Summit this June that I attended the very first Menus of Change Summit when it was held in Boston, when I was affiliated still with the Johns Hopkins Center for a Livable Future, based at the School of Public Health, where I did my both undergrad and graduate work at Hopkins. And I was sort of, fresh out of grad school, newly minted RD, and really loved working at the Center for a Livable Future and just getting immersed in food systems work locally in Baltimore City and nationally with the Meatless Monday campaign. And getting the chance to attend the Menus of Change Summit was like such an eye-opening and really career-changing experience for me, and just being so inspired by the people, the passion, the vision, and then just how, luck and serendipity would have it. My husband and I shortly thereafter moved to the Hudson Valley and was able to get connected with the CIA and, as Sophie mentioned, help helped to launch this Teaching Kitchen Collaborative, which has now emerged into its own separate nonprofit entity. And I got involved here on campus as a faculty member for several years, teaching and getting to work with the students and introduce nutrition, food safety, food systems, public health courses, and stayed involved in our strategic initiatives work all throughout. So when the opportunity presented itself to move into this full-time role just this past summer, I was really excited about it. And it's a great just privilege to be here in Hyde Park, based at our main campus here, and to help continue to build a bridge between all of our amazing strategic initiatives work with the Menus of Change Conference and our various collaboratives, and to continue to engage our students, staff, faculty, and just our larger campus community here. So I am thrilled to be working with Sophie and to be working with and meeting with all of you over the coming weeks, months, and years ahead. So thanks, Sophie. Back over to you.
Thank you so much, Allison. And again, our huge thanks to Eric for his leadership and vision. He's not going anywhere, just taking on some roles within his scope at Stanford, and has a lot to continue to contribute to the collaborative and the leadership board. So
yeah, and
lots
Sophie,
of exciting changes.
Sophie, if I can just jump in for 1 second too, because I did also want to mention the other leadership transition on the CIA side within our strategic initiatives team. Many of you know Greg Drescher, longtime employee of the CIA and leader within our strategic initiatives group. He is transitioning from his full-time role as vice president of strategic initiatives into a half-time senior advisor role. And we just recently brought on Rupa Bhattacharya as our new executive director of strategic initiatives and industry leadership. So you will be seeing her name and have a chance to meet her as well. So we are excited by some of just those internal leadership transitions with on the CIA side.
Yes, and really look forward to meeting and working closely with Rupa. And again, glad that Greg is still around and helping with all the vision that he has, but in this new capacity. So our other major leadership update is we have a transition on the Executive Chefs Committee leadership. We want to give our enormous thanks to Chef Akeisha Haid, the outgoing co-chair, who served valiantly as co-chair from the Harvard side. She has a really fantastic new role at MIT and will be sticking around as an alumnus, which for anyone who doesn't know, that is a great way that you can stay connected to this network and continue to be part of this community. And please join me in welcoming Chef Christina Batondo, who is Associate Director of Culinary Excellence from R&D East Stanford Dining and is the new co-chair of the Executive Chefs Committee alongside Matt Ward. And Matt is continuing in his role, but really thrilled to have Chef Christina and her pioneering implementation of Menus of Change principles at Stanford really into this leadership role, and most recently played an instrumental role in the great olive oil and Mediterranean sauce discovery project, which I'll be mentioning in just a moment. So huge welcome to you, Chef Christina, and I'll give you a moment to say a few words of your own.
Thank you, Sophie. Very excited to be the co-chair with Matt. I know I have some big shoes to fill with Akeisha. She was amazing, and I'm looking forward to it. I've been at Stanford for 8 years, just for a little bit of background. We definitely design our menus and live by the MOC principles here. I work directly with Eric, so I'm very excited for this opportunity. And I'm really looking forward to getting to know everyone and build relationships with everyone across the university. So I'm available anytime if anyone wants to reach out. Looking very forward to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chef. And again, our tremendous thanks to Chef Akeisha. So those are some updates. Also wanted to make sure we do have a good number of folks from the UNT team with us. We are going to be gathering in person for our 8th annual MCURC all-member meeting at University of North Texas, October 4th to 5th. Hopefully you have all received the save the date in a number of channels, but while we have you live, we wanted to reiterate that it is indeed happening. Planning is well underway. The UNT team is incredible. I have had the chance to visit personally, and I cannot say enough about how much inspiration, delicious food, and downright fun you're all going to have. So I highly, highly, highly encourage you to keep an eye out for the registration link, which will be coming in about a month and a half, roughly, and just start to get super, super excited to see each other in person after so much time only in the virtual space. So with that, I'm going to pivot to this getting the most out of MCURC resources. What we always hear is that even the veterans, the founding members, folks who've been with the MCURC from the very beginning, even our own CIA and Stanford colleagues who have in some ways participated in a lot of these projects or helped incubate ideas, even our co-chairs and other leaders are not fully aware of every incredible resource at our fingertips. And the beauty is all of the resources that we develop as a collaborative are available for free for anyone to download and utilize anytime. So really this is just the chance to kind of walk you through what all of those are. So to get to all these resources, you go to moccollaborative.org, and there is a resources tab. And I'm going to go through one by one, but just to let you know kind of where these live. And really, they're a variety of communication, strategy, training, and menu inspiration type of materials. If you have participated in any of these, you know that they are really about just unearthing the enormous amount of knowledge and experience and expertise across our 60 plus colleges and universities and all of the professionals within this network who have been hard at work implementing MOC principles for years now, and really just have so much to learn from one another. So when you get to this resources page, this is what it looks like. And I'm going to go in reverse chronological order. So they're organized right now in, I'm going to go in chronological order. They're organized in reverse chronological order. And if you go kind of all the way down to the bottom, this is what I'm going to start with. So the MOC Principles Implementation Schedule. What this actually means is that, what we heard early on is that everyone was implementing MOC principles and trying to essentially figure out, well, how do I market it? How do I talk about it? And a lot of these things are actually experiences that each of us are going through in tandem. And so one of the kind of core principles of a lot of these resources is to help each other not reinvent the wheel, not duplicate efforts, and recognizing too how not everyone has the marketing resources or staff availability and to do as much research and figure out all the best tips and tricks that collectively we do have the ability to bring forward. So the MOC Principles Implementation Schedule looks like this. And what you see when you open it is this is the how-to. So this is the purpose. What is it for? Essentially what it's for is to help you talk about MOC principles throughout the year. So tie it to, National Month of X, right? Pi Day, different holidays, Breakfast Month, Mushroom Month, whether it's ingredients or cuisine types. Certainly all of you do tons and tons of special events throughout the year. And so really this is a worksheet for you all to kind of come up with ideas. But what we've done is said, hey, here are things that are happening every year, so you can kind of anticipate that this can become a bit of a template. And you just take the principles and sort of group them as are relevant. And this can be a really great training exercise. So we show you as a template, right? Use as template for other months. We show you how, hey, September, think produce first could be tied into some of this. Whole grains, make whole intact grains a new norm could be tied into whole grains month, that type of thing. It'd be a really great team building exercise just to even learn about MOC principles, is to think critically about how to apply them and connect to these different themes. So the next one is the protein flip college and university style. So again, this is on the same page that you just saw, the same web page. I'm just going from the bottom all the way to the top of that resources page. And sorry, I should have mentioned that this one was developed by the Education Working Group years ago, because education often, if you're in a nutrition or sustainability role or even a culinary role, you're often doing a lot of this kind of marketing, communicating, educating your students and your dining populations about the special things on your menu and all of the why behind what you're doing. This document was produced by our Executive Chefs Committee, and it took the CIA Menus of Change protein flip material, which hopefully you're all familiar with, and it said, well, what's actually happening specifically protein flip wise in CNU on college campuses, and again crowdsourced across MCURC schools, just an enormous variety of ways that different universities are operationalizing protein flip, gaining inspiration, connecting it to different cuisine types. And so a lot of this document is essentially some recipe and menu inspiration ideas, but they're based on kind of the most successful examples of different schools that contributed to this document. All about, and again, the flip, for anybody who's unfamiliar, is can include vegetarian and vegan options, but it's also meat as a condiment. It's also blended, not only blended burgers, but all kinds of blended meat options. So that is a very popular resource, I will say, because of how central to MOC principles plant forward menuing and the protein flip concepts in general tend to be. And in a moment, I'm going to pause and let all of you kind of speak to your experience using these and sharing with others kind of what have you discovered in the process of putting these into action. So just so you know where we're heading after the overview. This document was put together by the Nutrition Sustainability Committee, really compiling different resources, different organizations, different studies all about food waste. And what I want to say about food waste is that we often hear, hey, why isn't there an MOC principle about food waste? And different members have advocated over the years that reducing food waste should be the 25th principle. But it is in designing health and sustainability into operations and spaces. And food waste is, of course, a central part of the MCURC research agenda. So this is a very top of mind topic for so many members, and this document is just a good sort of primer on who's doing what, who's out there, and what kinds of resources exist. I'll show you in a moment also the the research resources, of which quite a few actually do relate to food waste as well. So the fourth, and one of my all-time favorite, if I'm being honest, resources that the MCURC has ever produced is the self-assessment tool. So this is an incredibly sort of elegantly simple tool that enables any dining operation to do a gap analysis. How are we doing as a team implementing menus of change principles? And what it is again kind of a template. You go principle by principle, sitting down with your teams. You could have a student intern do this. It's a great way, again, from a learning experience perspective. It's great for any kind of more new colleagues to sort of just understand the lay of the land. And they go principle by principle and say, current status, what are our strengths, what are our opportunities when it comes to being transparent about sourcing and preparation, buying fresh and seasonal, local and global, right? You just go one principle at a time. And then what could be some next steps? And then we really encourage you to use this on an annual basis or even more often on a quarterly basis. And then kind of help you use this template to guide some action items on a certain timeline and just set some goals for yourself related to operationalizing MOC principles. Part of what this will show you is that oftentimes we hear 24 principles, that's so many, where do I even start? But then in the process of doing this, you'll actually see quite often how much ground you've already covered as an operation, and where maybe there's opportunities to focus more effort, more time and resources, and really to kind of up your game in certain principles while really taking stock of progress made, say on sugary beverages or on produce and so forth. So let's see, we've got some lots of links. Yeah, thanks, Allison, and we can drop in the links to kind of all those documents on the resources page. So the next item is sort of a similar, similar Executive Chefs Committee resource, where it was a survey of chefs saying, how hard is it to implement the different principles? Kind of who's making a lot of progress? What are the biggest obstacles? And how do you overcome those obstacles? So it's essentially a way to, it's a qualitative an analysis of principle by principle, what has worked anecdotally among members to implement a given principle, and why, what worked, what didn't work. And so again, we're really eager to accelerate, right? MCRC is in many ways an accelerator of the menus of change principles. And so in reading through a lot of this kind of guidance, you can avoid paths that others have taken that maybe didn't work. You can try things that have worked, and in turn save a lot of time, save a lot of staff energy and organizational resources, but also get a sense for kind of what's the low-hanging fruit. Where do other schools seem to have the greatest traction, right? So if you look down here, this is the percentage who have implemented the different principles, and that kind of shows you just sort of across the network how universally tricky or easy is a given principle to implement. The next one is a really spectacular, almost cookbook, honestly, a compilation of recipes focusing in. You saw some of these resources are about all 24 principles. This really took one principle, the globally inspired plant forward recipes and menu ideas, and did a deep dive. But also, one of the things I love about it is that it shows how you can really address so many other principles at the same time. And that's kind of the ultimate goal, is to check lots of boxes at once, is to see those synergies and the interconnections. And of course, plant forward as an umbrella concept is one of the best examples of many principles in action all at once. So this starts by talking about just what is plant forward, and goes into kind of some of the background on global cuisines. And then is what you'll see here is different examples from each school that submitted a certain dish. And then at the very end is actually all the recipes. So this page by itself is a treasure trove of menu ideas and kind of, again, the proven, here's what worked for us, students love it, we've tested it, we've run it multiple times, you know, all of those kinds of things. And it was produced by, again, this just incredible collaborative, collective effort across so many MCRC schools. I'll pause and just show you on the website. So one of the things that we love to do, a lot of these that you've seen so far were produced by different professional committees or just internally among a working group. But one of the things that we really love to do is translate research into operational strategies. And one of the best examples of that is the Edgy Veggies Toolkit. So this was an academic publication that you'll actually see if you go to the research tab here on resources. And this study is available for, sorry, you can see I have all of these, for anyone to download here in the Journal of Psychological Science. And it was a very rigorous study. Again, many authors across the MCURC network. But then they took it a step further and said, well, how can we help anyone really in the position of influencing other people, you know, what people eat, often chefs, dining directors, nutrition sustainability managers, but even parents, right? It could even be applied in the household. And this is an interactive toolkit that you can play around with on the SPARC site. That's the Stanford, oh, I always forget the acronym, Social Psychological Answers to Real World Questions, I think it is. And then you can click here and actually look at the gorgeous PDF version, which I have up for you here. And either way is essentially the, now I would deem it rather famous, Edgy Veggies Toolkit. Edgy Veggies Toolkit is probably the MCURC's most widely implemented resource that we've ever, beyond the collaborative that is. We have given demonstrations of this to countless industry leaders, produce associations. It's been used in contract management and many other food service settings, including but not limited to college and university food service. And it's certainly one that we're very, very proud of, and so grateful to all the members who contributed to this when it was first created. But what's really fun is it's all about taste-focused labeling. So this is an emphasis on the power of menu descriptions. Let's say you've implemented menus of change principles, you have fantastic dishes, and you now want to make it really, really appealing in what you call it. And this is, I often kind of refer to this as the last mile problem, where maybe the R&D is there, the culinary quality, the sourcing, everything's gone into it except the communication. What is it called? And really, we know that words really matter in setting an expectation. And this unpacks the psychology of the expectation that's set, why certain types of labels, why talking about provenance or using really exciting and indulgent, kind of decadent, even a little bit provocative language to describe healthier foods like vegetables. Why does that work? Why is that even more effective than using health attributes or nutrient claims? And what have people actually seen in action? So it goes into great, incredible array of creativity, words and descriptions you can use. Again, this is a really fantastic kind of team building exercise, is just to go through, the different adjectives: sizzling, rooty tooty, sprouted, raised, right? It's all the succulent, just testing all of our collective vocabularies and seeing the results of how much more appealing these dishes, the same dish, right? No change to the dish, but how much more appealing those dishes become just by shifts in the language. For everyone who wants to understand the science behind this, what did the study actually show? That was the toolkit of kind of how to act upon the findings. The dish study, that's the name of the study that I neglected to mention. We also created an executive summary. And we love to do this for operators so that you don't need to read the academic study. We love for you to read the academic study, but this is the kind of nuts and bolts, top takeaways. What did they do in the study? Why does it matter? How do I know this is legit? And what did they find? Oh my gosh, a 29% increase in vegetable selection just by taste-focused labels versus a healthy label. That's a huge boost, right? And those are results that anyone I'm here would be thrilled to have. So the executive summary is a fantastic kind of short and sweet version of the study findings, but also you can check out the full study on the psychological science site that I showed you. Our next resource is Early Learnings Report from our Collective Impact Initiative. And the one I just mentioned was really primarily driven by the Research Working Group. This is led in large part by Jackie Bertoldo, Associate Director of Nutrition and Food Choice Architecture at Stanford, who leads our Collective Impact Initiative, but it's also all of you who contribute data. And please do continue to contribute your protein portfolio data. This is an incredible display of the power of our joint purchasing power across all of our institutions towards to reduce our food-related emissions from our total protein purchases, millions of pounds of food. And what this document does is say, what are people finding? Again, what's working, what's not? How can we learn from one another, exchange ideas and strategies that are kind of paths to progress? We're in this for the long haul. We're heading towards 2030 for this collective target. We have a good way to go with that 25% reduction, but we're heading in the right direction. And so this document is a fantastic way to understand from a strategy perspective, really kind of overarching menu design, choice architecture, sourcing, and procurement. What are our schools finding that's working? So just a couple more to mention. This document, I would say, is an inspiration tool. It's called the Almost Perfect Plant Forward University. And it takes the idea of plant forward. We've been talking about plant forward collectively for a long time, which is an emphasis and celebration of foods from the plant kingdom. And maybe you've attended the CIA's fabulous conference that Allison will mention probably in a moment. Again, is just around the corner. But this document from the Executive Chefs Committee was really about who do you need to involve in shifting your dining program to be more plant forward. We have University of North Texas with us again, the host of the upcoming meeting in October, home to the first vegan dining hall in America, right? What does that take operationally in terms of engaging your stakeholders? How do you go about getting everybody on the same page about, even definitions, words, the kind of what constitutes success, and the many, many co-benefits, not framing it as lack of choice, framing it as an opportunity for even greater health and deliciousness, framing it as a business opportunity, all the win-win-wins that can come along with it. So this is really about the entire kind of ecosystem of stakeholders and then different mini case studies from different universities. Just to build on the plant forward theme here, we have, you may know, we have a very long-standing partnership with Data Central, and we've now got an annual collaboration with them as well as with Food for Climate League, where we look at the overarching evolution of plant forward preferences, trends, interest in plant forward menus and plant forward dining as a whole, and kind of how do we as the MCURC fit into that. So this is last year's Plant Forward Opportunity Report. Thank you to so many of you who maybe already have been starting to be involved. The Plant Forward Opportunity Report will be presented by Data Central at the October meeting and is again a really great sort of pulse of the industry and where things stand with respect to all things plant forward, and in a particular focus on those younger generations, the diners and customers that you all care most about. So lots and lots of data to sit with in there. But if nothing else, a lot of great talking points for when you are engaging stakeholders, when you are making the case. And we've heard from so many of you that that's really what you often need, is that rock solid, here's where things are heading, the data is clear, this is the way of the future. So that you're standing on very solid ground when you're making those arguments. This material was, again, an executive summary of an academic study that was published in Nutrients, I believe. So you can check out, yes, published in Nutrients by the Research Working Group. And this, again, is on that research tab that I showed you on the resources page. And so you can read the academic study, and you should, and it's really exciting, again, display of just the power of working across so many universities. But then we created the operational executive summary. What did the study find? What are the nuts and bolts? And what this does, and real credit to Dr. Peggy Policastro, our chair of the Research Working Group, who pioneered this study at Rutgers, for saying, you could take each principle in theory and just say, what do students think of these principles? Where is their current level of food literacy, which has been part of the MCURC's DNA from the very beginning? What is their current perception of good fat versus low fat? Do they still think of health equals low fat? And essentially that was the finding, and it was then, it presents an opportunity as educators, as researchers, as chefs, to engage our students in kind of overcoming that myth and showing just how delicious healthy fats as well as healthy fats can really be. So the last one for you, again, perfect segue, is all about olive oil. So the Mediterranean diet and olive oil is probably the best example of why we want to help students and all of our diners overcome the myth that that fat is bad for us. Olive oil and other plant-based oils have tremendous health benefits from all the good fats, and this extraordinary display of collaboration across our chefs, you may have heard at the January meeting, This was the highest participation we've ever had in terms of total number of schools on working together on one project. And this was during the pandemic, which is pretty remarkable. But essentially it was a collaboration of the CIA with the International Olive Oil Council to look at what is the opportunity, menu-wise, when you really delve deeply into olive oil, but also kind of the whole array, the enormous diversity of flavor profiles within different kinds of olive oils, and the many different sauce opportunities that the Mediterranean kitchen presents. So no shortage of menu inspiration, culinary innovation happening there. The last thing I will say, and then I'm really eager to hear from members, is just a plug for 2 other research studies. So on that research page, you have, sorry, just navigating all my tabs here. On that research page, what you're going to see is actually all the different academic publications. We have quite a portfolio now as a collaborative. It's remarkable, the body of literature that we're contributing to the kind of collective knowledge. And so I do encourage you to make sure you look at not only the operational and culinary driven resources, but the many academic research materials. And then there are 2 different portals. There's a member portal. Our community manager, Shannon Muntz, can provide you with a password if you are not able to access that. But this is really the more internal things. This is proud member button, the logo, if you want to put that, that button on some materials, and it's contact information, notes, and different folders and so forth. And there is similarly a portal for sponsors. So I will stop there, and I would love to open it up for anyone to just share your experience. We've got about 10 minutes to hear from all of you. And I know I see Danny from UNT here, and I'm actually going to start with Matt from UNT, who our co-chair of our Executive Chefs Committee. What has been your experience? What have you found to be most sort of relevant to your daily work? And how have you actually seen some operational improvements as a result of utilizing these tools?
Thanks, Sophie. Here at UNT, of course, we have Mean Greens and 100% plant-based dining hall. But plant-based is evident in all the dining halls that you go to on campus. So we use these tools on a daily basis. The Edgy Veggie Toolkit is a great one that we use for the descriptors in our dining halls to make sure that food is labeled in a very fun way, in a positive way, and it influences choices of our students that come in and our patrons that come in every day. And then also with the uniqueness of what we do here at UNT, we also we field a lot of inquiries about, plant-based dining and how we make it successful and whatnot. But whenever someone contacts me from another university, I always share with them the Almost Perfect Plant Forward University project and kind of use that as, here, you can use this as a blueprint, as you go through and kind of, take it step by step, and they'll give you a blueprint of how to be successful and how to set it up for your organization and whatnot. And most people then call me back and say, hey, that was a great resource. That answered most of the questions I had, moving forward with, and how we can implement it in our own organizations. So and also from my perspective, that was a really great project to work on. And then lastly, the olive oil and plant forward kitchen. This one's near and dear to my heart. This one we worked on during the pandemic, and just from a team standpoint, and I know for my team, and I know Akeisha with her team, and a lot of the universities that participated in this. This was almost like the first time that everybody was able to get their teams together, whether it be virtually or in person, safe distancing and all that. But it was a project that we were able to work on as a team and kind of have fun with it and whatnot. But the information that's in this one and the recipes and we use pretty extensively in all of our dining halls and whatnot for to keep students engaged and whatnot. So it was a great project. It was one we had fun with, and it was a really great project. And like you said, the participation was overwhelming. I think there was some we had to say, hey, sorry, we'll get you on the next project, but it was one of those ones that it was a perfect collaboration between a lot of the committees within the MCURC. So those three I know stick with me, and we try to use on a daily basis when we when we go about our days in the dining halls. So
that's music to our ears, and I'm sure especially to Greg Drescher's ears in terms of the olive oil piece that he was so instrumental in, and what we love to hear too is where I love that word blueprint, right? So often all of us in the collaborative, when you really take a step back, you're change agents. You're agents of change, and if there are colleagues internal to your organization or external, often there's just a question of where do I start? Where's the most change needed? Who do I talk to? What do I set as goals, right? And so a lot of that is just the framing or the structuring your efforts, kind of having that roadmap. And I really think that was such a valuable piece of particularly the Almost Perfect Plant Forward University report. But then there's the day-to-day, what do I put on the menu? And so it's really also straddling these kind of big picture, longitudinal, strategic efforts with the more immediate, just continuing to strive for culinary excellence and make the offers as delicious as possible. So thank you so much for that, Matt. Chef Christina, I know you had mentioned beforehand that you have also really enjoyed using some of these resources, and I'd love to hear from you briefly, and then also if there's any researchers, I'm particularly curious to hear, when we're speaking right now about your experience using these tools, often that means implementing or operationalizing them, but we are a collaborative of operators and researchers, and the hope too is that you gain new research ideas from these tools. So curious also if there's any, more from that perspective where the real value proposition has just been in inspiring you to pursue a study maybe that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise. But yeah, Chef Christina, which of these have really risen to the top in terms of utility within your operation?
Yeah, I mean, these are all great tools, but definitely the globally inspired plant forward recipes. So we actually have been working on a concept that we just launched a couple of weeks ago called Saffron Mediterranean Kitchen. So really, focusing on very flavor forward items, lots of legumes. We have a Metzi bar, and the students are just loving it. And it's really a way to show them that plant forward can be delicious and you don't really think about it. I see them loading up hummus and baba ganoush and there's big smiles on their face, and they're not really thinking about that they're missing a big pile of meat on their plate. So it's been very exciting for us. So I really think that's had a large impact on our menu design, as well as the olive oil came into play just in time for us working on this concept, actually. So we did a lot of tastings, and like I said, we have an olive oil bar where we're changing out the olive oils and kind of educating the students on different flavors. So that's been very, very helpful for us and very exciting. And of course, the Edgy Veggie Toolkit is near and dear to my heart because I watch the studies of that, and I watch students see one plate of carrots and then one plate of twisted carrots and watch them fill their plate, even though it's the same thing. So we really look at the labeling of things here at Stanford and notice that students really do choose that option when it's labeled efficiently. So yeah.
I love those. Yeah, that is cool that you've seen it, an N of one, and you're convinced. And then we have, obviously many more data points, but you got the front row seat to that dining hall as living laboratory research. love to open it up in case there's others who want to share experience in this vein of putting into use. And especially, was there any challenges that these helped you solve? Or as I mentioned on the research side, any kind of new ideas that just lightning bolts of inspiration? And if not, I'm going to let my colleague Allison give you the Menus of Change Principles, or excuse me, Summit preview. But mainly it's just a reminder that there are all of these tools. In some cases it can be overwhelming, but it's also just an enormous opportunity, right? Again, we know that so many universities are, if nothing else, we're in it together and we're learning from each other. This is a peer learning community, if nothing else. And what you'll also hopefully take away when you do sit down with a lot of these resources is how many colleagues there are out there that you could send a quick note to, have a quick call with, and say, hey, I really was inspired by your such and such dish, or wow, how did you design that study? And just remember that we're not only these publications are resources, but each other are in so many ways your greatest resource in the long journey of advancing healthy, delicious, sustainable food choices for all. So I will stop talking and turn it to Allison to tell you about kind of the newest way to get tons of resources, which is, of course, to attend the summit.
Great. Thank you. And Sophie, before I do that, did you just want to mention these last two slides here about the member sponsor buttons and other
I think
resources?
I did cover those.
Okay.
Yes, those are the portals.
Oops, I did not mean to share that. Okay. Great. So thanks, Sophie, and thanks for going through those resources. You know, as from my perspective as an educator here at the CIA, I use them all the time in nutrition and food systems courses, and give a shout out to Alex Sarabelli, who I know is on the call too, and she has taught our intro food systems courses, and it's just so exciting to introduce our students here to the world of menus of change and these resources and just what's happening out in the industry to hopefully plant a tiny little seed and inspire them to think about their future career options. So I will just spend a few minutes going through and giving you a preview of the Menus of Change Summit. And before I do that too, just before the Menus of Change Summit, we have just in a couple weeks around the corner here, we have our Global Plant Forward Culinary Summit on April 26th through the 28th. This, of course, was a relatively new program that started in 2019, had to go virtual the last 2 years. So we're now excited to be back in person and have well over 200 attendees joining us in person. And of course, we'll be live streaming the general sessions too. So if you are not able to attend in person, then we hope that you'll tune in to the webcast. But we have just a really exciting lineup of chefs, everyone from John Kwan, the Buddhist monk from South Korea, flying in, who was featured on the Chef's Table on Netflix. We have Joanne Lee Molinaro, the Korean vegan, Chef Spike Mendelsohn, Chef Shinari Freeman of Cadence in New York, Christina Roy Kiasami, author of The Malaysia Kitchen, and Abra Behrens, chef at Griner Farm in Michigan, and author of Grist and Roughage. So that's just a few of the chefs among many others on the program. So hopefully you'll tune into that. For Menus of Change coming up, I just will give a run through. You can access the full program schedule and see the full list of presenters on the website, but it will be June 14th through the 16th. We have 10 general sessions and 3 rounds of breakout sessions, which we hope to be just really interactive and have a lot of opportunities for attendees to engage with our speakers. 4 of the breakout sessions will include culinary demos, and we're also planning a whole variety of sort of student-focused programming in conjunction with the summit. So we're excited here just in Hyde Park to get the whole community engaged in the 10th year event this year. So I'll just do a quick run through of some of the highlights of the sessions. General session 1 and 2 really just powerhouse lineup of both kind of academic and industry chef perspectives, making the accelerating case for change, showcasing some of our partnerships with the Harvard School of Public Health, and specifically calling out just a new initiative here focused on the aging population and the opportunities to connect food and lifestyle interventions to address a growing global population that is increasing in age, and a variety of implications to that. On Wednesday morning, we have a discussion that is just ever ongoing and evolving around where the consumer is, the business, the science, the technology around plant-forward, plant-based. So Sophie alluded to our ongoing partnership with Data Central and producing what will be the third edition of our Plant Forward Opportunity Report. So that will be unveiled at the summit this year. And we have representation from the Good Food Institute, Plant-Based Foods Association, and then this general session 4 are really going into more of the engagement strategies of how do we think about campaigns from Meatless Monday, which is going into celebrating its 20th year of being around, and and how are they adapting to this less meat messaging. And David Katz has launched this No Beef Week campaign coming up in conjunction with Earth Week. And so we'll hear from him of what the learnings are there. Brian Cateman, producer of Meet Me Halfway, and his work with the Reducitarian Foundation. So that should be a dynamic panel discussion. In Wednesday afternoon, we'll have a culinary keynote by Chef Nama Tamir of Lighthouse in Brooklyn, who's just been an amazing advocate for sustainable restaurant operations. We'll launch into a larger conversation about net zero emissions and just what the landscape is of food service, everyone from McDonald's to Sodexo and many others who are pledging net zero by 2050, and just what that means and what some of the just implications and challenges are to really achieving that. And then in the last general session here, just branching off into other sectors. So highlighting what's going on in healthcare and K through 12 and food service insights and trends that are happening in those sectors as well. Finally, on the last day, we'll have Katie Jackson giving us a little snapshot of what's happening in the wine industry, kind of in parallel to what's going on and what needs to happen in the larger food and beverage industry for food systems transformation. We'll have a general session on the business of change and what are all the trends in the financial markets and the whole landscape of ESG and perspectives from investors. And then finally, we'll have a general session focused on education and leadership from a variety of our faculty, staff, and student perspectives that we want to bring to light for the audience as well. For our breakout session, so what we wanted to do was pull out a few of the menus of change principles and show these menus of change principles in action on the culinary stage. So these were all planned in conjunction with faculty and additional industry perspectives. So we're very excited about how these are coming together, and just highlight again the delicious, amazing culinary strategies that operators can take home with them. And building off of the work that Sophie mentioned with the Olive Oil Council, we'll be having a demo and showcasing the continued partnership as the CIA continues our work with them. So there'll be more to come with the olive oil work. Additional breakout sessions will cover craving immunity. So what is health and wellness 4.0, and with the pandemic and just increased interest in functional foods, immune boosting foods, kind of where's the consumer right now, and what are the implications for the messaging on the menu. And then most relevant to this particular audience is Gen Z Plant Forward, the protein shift. So we're going to have some representation from our enthusiastic group from the UK. They're going to be sending about 10 representatives to do a whole study tour in New York and attend the conference. So we'll have Matt join this breakout session, Chris from UNT, and then Katie Wilson Executive Director of Urban School Food Alliance, to just connect what's happening in K through 12 and college and university, sort of that whole shifting our nation's youth eating habits. So that was a very quick snapshot, but I encourage you to just browse the website, and I'll just put in a pitch here, remind you again that as MCR members, you get a 20% off discount with the discount code. April 22nd is we have a advanced registration rate savings through April 22nd. So I'll just flag that. If you're on the fence, not sure if you're able to attend, that's going to be your best time to get the best rate to attend. And once we know how many members and what our numbers are looking at, we're going to be putting together just a nice members only networking breakfast on Thursday morning. So really can't beat the opportunity to come together in person. So we encourage as many people as possible to join us in Hyde Park, and if not, then certainly tuning in virtually is another option. So I will stop there, and we have just a couple of minutes if anyone has any questions.
What an amazing program. Yeah, any questions? I did get a question from Keith about the opportunities to attend virtually. So Allison, if you can speak to how that works with the webcast for anyone who isn't able to go in person.
Sure. Yeah. So on moneytochange.org, there's a drop down for the webcast. I can share the link. So we'll have the information. Right now, the recordings from last year are posted there. So you can access last year's recordings, but that's where we'll put the link to access the live webcast. And it'll also be shared on our social media platforms too.
Well, I am sensing that we don't have any questions, so hopefully there's just lots of wheels turning about how to, convince the powers that be that you can take the time away from your campuses and hop on a plane and go taste and see for yourself. It is an incredible conference. It's so exciting that it's coming back with such a bang. And really, it's just another great opportunity to connect with MCURC members through the opportunities that Allison mentioned. So with that, I think we'll give you 2 minutes back in your day. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to all of our fabulous leaders, new and others who are moving on. And we are so grateful to all of you for your time. So thank you so much. And we look forward to talking to you all soon. Hopefully seeing you in person in Napa, Hyde Park, or Denton, Texas. So take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.